Hello and welcome. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. My name is Tanay Tiwari, and it's the night before the big exam. Yes, like those pre-boards before the main boards come around. That's that for both these teams. India plays South Africa in the first T20I in Thiruvananthapuram, and the prep has already begun, of course. But this is the last leg of it. How do the two top students fare? Well, to talk about it all, we've got Mr. Ajay Jadeja with us and making a comeback on Cricbuzz Live, PPpedia, someone who's been scoring runs, AJ, who's been setting reels on fire, who's been doing everything right now, it seems.
Yes, and we are glad to have him back because once he comes in, we have all the information and all the new young age energy that comes back into the show. But I really
Yeah.
loved his reel. The way he was doing Dandiya Ras, he was taking practice classes for Dandiya Ras.
I,
PP,
I
where are
thought he
you?
was giving practice. I thought he was giving practice to someone.
No, I was see every Gujarati likes to do Garba, and that's what I was doing. I was just doing it. That was in Ahmedabad. Now I'm in Jodhpur. I'm playing this Legends League.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying coming back onto the field. But yeah, it's
You're
fun to
not
be
just
traveling again and
PPpedia,
playing.
you're not just playing, you're setting it on fire, you're playing that humble card there. But the one news that I'm going to
I'm not
mention,
thinking of making a comeback for sure.
are you sure?
I'm not thinking of making a
The
comeback
way
for
you're hitting
sure.
those sixes over covers, why not? You're saying why not?
No.
Might as well. But the one thing that we can tell you for sure right now is the fact that India won the toss and they've opted to field. Now it's not been very long ages since the last time these two teams met. It was just what 14, 15 weeks back when they met, and it was a 2-2 draw between them. And both these teams, for a while now, throughout this year, at least in T20Is, have been in great form. I mean, India, we've seen those bilateral wins, but also South Africa. And this is the last series, of course. South Africa
Yeah.
won the first two T20Is, and then India came back.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the entire year as well, it's only been South Africa who's stayed at par because we managed to beat everyone else in the bilateral. The fifth game didn't happen, so it was 2-all in that series. So it's one team that's actually given you run for your money. But having said that, I mean it hasn't been that long. I mean, just
Yeah.
imagine at that time the captain of your team who was leading that team is now not even making it to the 11. So we were playing a different side. It was a different stage of the different stage of the preparation for the World Cup. So I would look at South Africa and always be wary. There is no doubt about that. This is a team that actually can surprise you at times. But
Yeah.
having said that, Rohit Sharma's back, Kohli's back, your main side, Bumrah's back. So it should be a different series. I'm hoping for that because if that doesn't happen, this is one game that you will have to win in the World Cup to win the World Cup. Forget about winning to qualify. These are the guys that you will have to beat them first.
Yeah, in the Super 12, South Africa do happen to be in India's group, and this can serve as a very good practice to take on the South African team because they're traveling with the same squad that will travel to Australia for the T20 World Cup. Of course, India won the toss; they've elected to field. But PP, let's play that guessing game that we play, and we've been playing for a while now. How many changes do you think India's made?
Probably, I mean, two changes are definitely
Two
forced. I
changes
mean,
are obvious. Yeah, yeah,
Hardik is just definitely gone for conditioning, and then maybe one of the fast bowler. You never know. Probably with Bumrah playing 3 games,
yeah.
maybe get a game to Chahar and see if he can play, he can replace Bhuvneshwar or not. So maybe a couple of changes there for sure.
Who is giving this news to PPPD? I want to know who's giving this news because he's absolutely right. Let's have a look at India's playing 11 and the one
Cricbuzz
big
live.
surprise. Okay, all
Cricbuzz
right.
app.
He's watching the Cricbuzz app. There it's fine. All right then. So the one big name missing there, Parthiv, is Jasprit Bumrah. He's not there. He's out. And the news is that he has a niggle. Deepak Chahar comes in for him. Arshdeep Singh, of course, comes straight in for Bhuvneshwar Kumar. And we've got Rishabh Pant coming in for Hardik Pandya. You'd say it's on expected lines, these changes? Of course, apart from the Bumrah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think these were the expected lines because I don't think India were going to. There's no one to replace Hardik Pandya, the all-rounder. So obviously, Rishabh comes in. That left-handed option, India definitely needed it. And there's one interesting change was R. Ashwin is back as well in place
for
of
Chahar.
Yuzvendra Chahal. So that's something which I'm sure India is looking at. Obviously, Chahal did well in the last couple of games against Australia. In fact, last game he bowled really well. But yeah, I'm sure India is looking at probably if they can have another option of someone who can bowl in power play, especially with Bumrah not playing. So and obviously the lefty righty combination, which we always think about the matchups, which we've always
Yeah.
spoken about. So probably that South Africa has 3-4 left-handers with Quinton de Kock's record against Ashwin or off spinner is not that great. So
Yeah.
probably I think that could be the reason why India is going with R Ashwin. And
Yeah,
that's
I
something
mean,
I feel India will
yeah.
look to do it as well in
Okay.
World Cup, where they said they're going to be using it horses for courses kind of an approach, where they'll probably make changes according to what the 11 is playing against them.
Mhm. And when we spoke about this, AJ, in the last T20I, the third T20I between India and Australia, and you looked at that playing 11 and you said this would largely be the playing 11 that India would play in the T20 World Cup. Now there are of course forced changes here, but now to bring Ravichandran Ashwin in, something that you've been talking about a lot. How do you see this?
I think it is, one of those, like what Parthiv just said. This team has made it clear that they would going to play horses for courses. So when you have so many left-handers in the opposition side, or even if there are not too many, but if there is a player like David Miller, who's probably the key to their batting, you would, probably think of that. And that's probably one of the reasons that we see Ashwin today, or maybe just giving him a go before the World Cup. But I'm glad to see him because, he's your finest spinner, and you can make a call. You may not want somebody in the side for his fielding or for whatever else, but once you brought him back, then his spin bowling or his bowling skills are very
Yeah.
useful, and there's no doubt. And even for him, I mean, he may be a very senior player, but he would also like a few games in before you get him into the World Cup game, or you might just bring him in a game where it's a crucial game. So it's nice to see him back, and he'll get a game, he'll get a little feel of the ground, because no matter how senior you are, you like to
Yeah.
be on that ground. I mean, that feel comes from that ground, and especially for people who have skills. Your skill is something that you master it. You keep working on it. You try and bowl a slightly slower. I mean, it's difference of maybe a couple of kilometers up and down. You try these things in the net, but still, a game is a game. A game situation is something that you would want to get the feel of. So I'm glad to see him there.
Yeah, correct. And the kind of person that Ravichandran Ashwin is, Parthiv, I mean, of course you know him well, and for the kind of person, the competitiveness within him, he'd really be itching to go out there and prove a point as well with the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every player would want to go out there and play. Like rightly, Ajay has rightly said that you want to have games, no matter how many games you've played before, but you want to have games behind your back when you're going into games like World Cup. So Ashwin, we know how what we can do. We always calling it scientist is tries a lot of things. So maybe before getting into World Cup, we would want to do a few things on the ground. Yes, you might be bowling a lot of overs in the nets, but bowling in a game situation is completely different. There are practice games before getting into World Cup, but international games are international games. So as Ajay Bhai said, when you are so senior, and it was bound to happen. It was a matter of time before Ashwin gets a game. So in my book, if he's there in the squad, I think they should be playing it regularly.
Yeah, and something that you said that India would opt for the horses for courses, and that's something that's very evident now when you look at South Africa's playing 11, as AJ also mentioned, that because there are those three left-handers, and R. Ashwin this year has been India's premier bowler against left-handers. He's just not given away runs. So there's Quinton de Kock, there's Riley Russo, there's David Miller. So in that top six, if you've got those three left-handers, he can really work hard and tie them down, AJ.
Yeah, and he'd probably play the key role in it. I mean, it gives you an option with Chell. If Chell had played, I mean, he'll do his part as well. Not that he can't bowl to left-handers. I'm not one of those who believes that you can't bowl to left-handers. But what this allows you to do is you make even open with the bowling with Ravichandran Ashwin. Quinton de Kock is somebody who's had a great run against India. He loves the Indian team. I mean, I don't know for what reason, but he just seems to get those big scores against India. So you would want to break that sometime. So, Ashwin could, be used there. And then you said David Miller at the end, Riley Russo, who's, a player that everybody's, a bit worried about, the man who can take the game away from you. So, he could be used in different kinds. I presume, I mean, looking at that side, that Ashwin probably will be used against those three for mostly. But somehow I have a feeling, because Deepak Char's come back, I know Arshdeep's come back. And who else is there? Seema? Today, Harshal Patel is still there. So Harshal doesn't enjoy that new ball so much. So maybe Arshdeep might not bowl. You might see Deepak Char and Ashwin opening the bowling. And so, once that starts, then it all depends on how the game goes. But he will be used against the left-handers. There's no doubt. Matchup is the word. Matchup is what is happening in modern day cricket, and I'm trying to, figure out, how matchups work. I understand
Yeah.
the numbers, but now I want to see whether they go beyond numbers or not. Because as matchups say, it should be the first over. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, matchup says he'll bowl, but I doubt that he'll bowl the first over.
Well, that's going to be interesting to watch. But the one thing that was not interesting to watch, PB, for at least for Indian fans throughout the Australia series, and perhaps towards the latter half of that Asia Cup as well, was the leaking runs in the death overs. Now that's been a problem. Today we'll see Arshdeep Singh and Harshal Patel both bowling. And do you see some sort of competition perhaps between the two of them, because both are death bowling experts? But Harshal Patel has really gone for some runs, and Arshdeep on the other hand, despite all that happened with him in the Asia Cup, those drop catches and everything, he's really excelled.
I thought Arshdeep Singh was probably pick up the players of Asia Cup. I think that one positive, if we have to look at India's point of view, I think Arshdeep Singh was probably to me, I think it was number one, along with Virat Kohli's form, of course. But yeah, with someone, if you look at Arshdeep, how well he bowled, because India had to defend 7 runs twice in 2 games, and he took the game to till fifth ball. So that is commendable job. And obviously, after being so much of pressure and everything, he handled it really well. He showed that he has skills to perform. So if India has to defend 10, 12 runs, we can say that we have a bowler who can do that. At the other end, yes, Harshal Patel is probably the bowler which India has designated him as your finisher bowler. Like we have a finisher batsman in Dinesh Karthik, we have a finisher bowler in Harshal Patel. He usually comes in and bowls on 17th, 19th or 18th and 20th over. But we have to see he's coming out of injury as well. So it is not easy for any bowler to execute those skills, because these are the most difficult overs to bowl. So margin of error is very, very less. So I think as he plays a lot of games, I think he'll keep improving. But yeah, and to me, Arshdeep Singh is something which India should be banking on, because I thought the lefty variation is it can bring a lot of variety into your inning.
Yeah, and it is something that you mentioned as well. I mean, the fact,
No, sorry, just butting in, because those numbers are very interesting. I'm trying to work on these numbers these days. So when you look at those numbers, what do you see? Arshdeep has played, bowled 5 point whatever number of overs. Harshal's bowled whatever number. If you remember that last 2 overs that PP just mentioned, the opposition only required 7, 8 and over. So you've actually gone past that. So depending, because it's such a short sample size, that so I can remember it, because 2 games you remember very clearly that he only needed 7, the opposition needed 7. So if they've got 9, that means you've actually gone over par. Not trying to defend Harshal here, I totally agree with Parthiv that he's come back from injury, he might take a little longer. I think this answer, or the question that is in all of our minds and all the fans of India, that who will bowl that death over, I have no doubts that Arshdeep is a very talented bowler, no doubt. But Harshal has that special skill towards the end of the innings. And today, now that they're both playing together, not when one game would be unfair to judge any one of them, but I have no doubts in my mind that the end of the 3 games, Harshal will go, he'll just go past Arshdeep in this case. Arshdeep is a better bowler. I would say that he's a better bowler, because as a captain, I want a bowler who I can use him in the first over, 10th over, or the 20th over. So not judging any one of them, but towards that end, those numbers at the moment are a little flattering towards Arshdeep. Harshal is a better bowler towards the end of the innings.
But if India really had the choice of only picking one, PP, between Harshal and Arshdeep, who do you think picked the other? Because as AJ mentioned rightly, that Arshdeep can give you those overs inside the power play as well.
I think it's very difficult to choose between two, as Ajay said. They both have their own qualities. Where Arshdeep can bring. To me, I think if I have to pick, I'll pick Arshdeep. Only reason is he'll give me those variety with left arm seamers, and if he can swing it initially, that can that can be very useful from India's point of view, because you need a bowler who can actually give you bowling in at least two phases of the game, which is probably in power play or middle and death, or power play and death. So I think
Yeah,
Harshdeep can give you those kind of variety. Well, Harshal has his own quality as well. So if India is
yeah.
primarily looking for only say someone who can finish the inning, so you can go towards Harshal, but I would go with Harshdeep, because I think that one variation which India needed throughout this World Cup campaigns was a lefty fast bowler. India did not have a lefty fast bowler in World Cups in 2019 or 2021. So to me, I think that I'll choose Harshdeep, because he can swing it in as a left arm.
Yeah, yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see because Arshdeep is also coming back from some conditioning related work at the NCA. He'll come back and join this team in the playing 11. India won the toss, they've opted to field, which means South Africa are batting first, and their batters did put on a show the last time they were here, and it wasn't that long ago. But now, if you look at that batting lineup, the one name that's missing is that of Reza Hendricks, Parthiv. And I mean, of course, when Quinton de Kock comes in, you've got to make plays for him, despite the fact that you may have scored a lot of runs. But do you say there'd be added pressure on both Quinton de Kock and Temba Bavuma to bat in the style that perhaps Reza Hendricks would have batted in? Because the two of them don't really go around striking that hard.
Yeah, I mean, not because of I think with Quinton de Kock as a fielder's position, because Tenda Boma can only open, he's a bit like me, he can only open in first 6 overs, and then it's very difficult for him to once the power play overs are done. So probably that is the reason why when Tenda is opening, they have to make a way for Reza Hendricks, because Quinton is a proven performer. Riley Russo has been brilliant for them. If you look at your numbers, your strike rate, there is a glaring difference between strike rates of Quinton de Kock and Temba Bavuma and Reza Hendricks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would I mean, that's a right selection as well. India, South Africa has gone with the captain and left-right combination both.
Yeah, and for someone who's hit 450s in the last 5 games, AJ, and we can see the gulf between the number of runs, the average, the strike rate there. You've really got to perform. Even if you're Quinton de Kock and Temba Bavuma in this side, you've sat someone out who's been scoring that well in the build-up to a World Cup. You've really got to step up here.
Yeah, when you look at those numbers, you feel for him. You feel, why is he not getting a game? But reality of the world at the moment is such that in South Africa you've got to play certain players or certain background, and and especially when you've been made into a captain and he's a captain, so there's only one spot left. So his fight was not with Babuma, his fight is with Quinton de Kock. So either Quinton de Kock plays or he plays, and then Quinton de Kock probably has numbers against India which are, I don't think anyone has better numbers against India, not just 1 year, but for many, many years. He just seems to love India. So maybe that's what's, left him out. What that does is, puts a lot of pressure on the other guys as well. That, there is a guy waiting in the wings, and that could do two things. It can add pressure that, you might crumble, or it might just push everyone else to get a little better. Because, we don't understand as Indian fans, how this is, because we look at a team and say, you don't have to be from a certain region or certain part to be in that side. But in case of South African team, the reality is such that you have to have certain people or certain background people in the side, and that's how captain makes it to that side. Because the captain's not even part of any of how many franchises in South Africa? 6, 7?
Yeah, 6, but he's not a part of even one of that. Yeah.
So when the Indian owners pick those teams, they don't even pick him. But South African Cricket Board, and it's easy for us to sit here and make a comment, but they may have their own compulsions or own reasons for why they're doing it. So I think it's not a cricketing decision; it's a decision that is because of the policy that they have.
Yeah, but that's very interesting because as a leader, PP, Temba Bavuma has done really well for them. But then are you only playing him as a specialist role of a leader? Because with the bat, those runs haven't come, and the results of that, as AJ mentioned, have been very evident in what happened in the SA20 auction as well. He wasn't picked, and look at that strike rate, those boundary percentages, that average. This is inside the power play where you as an opener have got to maximize those field restrictions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with what Ajay said. It is not the batting, or it's not the the kind of player he is. It's just the other things which is decided his place or his captaincy into the side, and these numbers are also suggesting that the strike rate of 86 in power play is something which you don't associate here as an T20 opener, not even probably in this times, not even a one day opener as well. So you got to strike it hard. I mean, for him, I think when you know that there is backing, there's something which is going your way, you just have to go and try and play shots. I mean, you have to take risks. To me, whenever I've seen Tenda Bavuma as a player, I mean, he waits for loose ball to come in, and which is difficult when you're playing power play in T20, because bowlers have also become smart. You have to force them to play, make mistake and try and do something. Maybe try and step out, or maybe try and leave your stumps a bit. Take your chances. But as a leader, definitely he's been that calming force which South Africa needed, especially after so many of them players actually retired. So the full marks to him as a captain on the ground, because he has led and he has marshaled his troops really well. So, but as a player, definitely he needs to make sure that his strike rate at least goes to 110, 120.
Yeah, because it's a catch-22 situation, AJ. I mean, when they brought him in as their white ball captain, he wasn't really established in either of their white ball teams. He was a great red ball player. He was established there. But because of some sort of a leadership crisis in the middle, and we saw what happened with South African cricket in the past few years, they had to bring him in. Now, with a lot of their Kolpak players back in the mix, and the team starting to look beefier now with all those inclusions, are they now in a catch-22 situation with Temba Bavuma? What do they do with it?
They are in that catch-22 situation, but I mean, I expressed what I felt about why he's there. But on the flip side is the Kolpak has just come back. You left. I mean, all these guys had the opportunity to play for South Africa, but they were not ready to play at that time. And this man held the team together. And Parthiv mentioned that at that time this team was in crisis as well. So he held the team together, and as long as the team's winning, you don't look at each person. I mean, from our point of view, yes, we are looking, but from their point of view, they're looking at a side that is, wasn't winning, is winning, and this is the man that is leading that side. Give you a couple of examples: Ian Morgan with KKR, or even with England till in the end. I remember George Bailey starting off a World Cup with being the captain, and then eventually, opting to sit out himself when they, I think in the second round or the second game or third game. So not first time, but it's happened many a time. So you've got to give him the respect for what he's done. He's not scored runs. He's not scored at those high strike rates that you look at each individual. But a much more important thing that has been done by him is to put this team together and, show them the winning ways again. I mean, this is the same side. I mean, they came and this is the only side in India that we haven't beaten this year or in 2020 this year. So he's managed to do that in spite of him being there. So it's a call that you make. And at this moment, they've made the right call. And it's not just this. They have many other troubles in South Africa that they have to think of. So it's not unfair to the guys who are sitting out. It is unfair to the guys that have been made to sit out in this particular game since the Kolpak players have arrived. Because if they were winning without them, I would have carried on with them and waited for these guys to sit on the bench and wait their turn in, rather than bring him straight them back into the 11. Marco Jensen is a man that comes to my mind. Parnell was nowhere close, and here he's. I mean, he may have a great game and beat us today, but I'm saying in terms of policy that how you run a team. So they're making these changes, which could be we'll know by the end of the series whether this team will be a threat in the World Cup or not.
All right. Okay, that's very interesting. Now, talking of Kolpak players, of course, Wayne Parnell is one who's come in. But Riley Russo, and what form has he been in PP? I mean, Riley Russo will bat at number 3. And that's something also, I think, perhaps that can shield the lack of form for Quinton de Kock and Temba Bavuma, because Riley Russo has been in red-hot form. I mean, since 2019, look at the company that he's keeping in T20s, 2,000 plus runs, highest strike rate is the 4th highest, 155. For him to continuously do that, he had to break into this team, and he's a big asset.
Yeah, but all of these runs have come in this club cricket, or what we call a league cricket, which has come in. So for him to come and do it at an international level won't be that easy for sure. Obviously, you carry on that form with you, but at international level, it's a completely different game. You're handling your pressure. You're handling pressure differently. And another thing which comes into my mind was, as Ajay rightly said, that there are players who've done well. South Africa has done well, and you've come in from outside and just got a place into playing 11 straight away. I've played with him. He was part of RCB, so he's always have caught an eye of a lot of franchise owners whenever he's gone and played club cricket. But yeah, I mean, this is completely different. The international cricket, the pressures are completely different. So it'll be interesting to see how he probably faces the quality of Ashwin's spin, whether he has faced that kind of quality in franchise cricket. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can carry on with this kind of strike rate.
Yeah, correct. I mean, he showed glimpses of that in the England series. He scored a 96 of 55 odd balls. So he's at some taste of the highest level. But what PP is saying is right, AJ. I mean, when you come to this level, this stage, it's
I'm with him on that. Just to add, what happens is, and I talked a little earlier about team winning and players not doing well. So where they were when they turned around, Aiden Markram and David Miller were probably two players who really transformed, and they were moved up the order. At least David Miller. Now with him coming, Riley Russo coming in, what happens is, these guys have to go back and the whole combination might change. And what would South African fans want? Would they want Riley Russo to score runs, or would they want South Africa to win? So South Africa was winning without him. I mean, so I'm saying, because that's the only team that hasn't beaten India when they came here. Now with somebody else coming in at that number, things will change. That's why I said we'll have to wait and see how this series goes. It might add to them and become a better side. But we've seen David Miller batting at 6-7, what we used to give. And this year, since he's been at GT, when he started playing up the order, he was giving something else to your team. So every change that you make doesn't make a change to that one player. It makes a change to the entire setup as well. So I'm with PP.
Well, there's change incoming in South Africa in more ways than one. They've launched their domestic league again. This is, I think, the third attempt. They did start with Banzi Super League, but that couldn't really materialize. This is SA20, and now, as we saw with Indian franchises coming in, it seemed a lot more professional. They had an auction, and in that auction, the top two buys, PP, are number 3 and number 6 in South Africa's playing 11 today. Tristan Stubbs, of course, the hotshot of the town, the talk of the town, really, 4.14 crore, and Riley Russo for 3.11 crore. But the one thing that was very interesting was the fact that all of them, I mean, the entire list is made up of South African players, and there were some international stars there as well. Now, we see in a lot of domestic leagues across the world, be it the Vitality Blast, be it the Big Bash League, a lot of local players don't really play because they're playing perhaps international cricket at the same time in the calendar. Does this boost the kind of quality of cricket that South Africa 20 will bring about now with most of their players available?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. I think what happened to Indian cricket, it completely changed once IPL started. We got a lot of domestic players got chance to rub shoulders with international stars. Where you didn't know how they were preparing. You didn't know their weaknesses or strengths and what made them great players at international level. So obviously that will help a lot of our domestic players in South Africa, and it's not going to happen overnight for sure, but that's the right step towards making sure that South Africa cricket where it was. I mean, if you look at where South Africa is cricket in 1990s, or they were probably really strong side, though they didn't win any World Cups, but they were very big side to beat with a lot of great players in this side. So I think this is the right step towards that making rebuilding process. So I'm sure there's IPL franchisees which have bought the franchises back in South Africa will bring about that change that South Africa needed. It'll be interesting to see whether the quality of cricket, because then there are a lot of South African domestic players will be playing in this league. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's the right step as far as South African cricket is concerned.
Yeah. Quick word on Tristan Stubbs, PPPD. You've seen him with the Mumbai Indians. I mean, he's been the talk of the town. He's done really well in a lot of these leagues, including the 100. But give us some insight into Tristan Stubbs, please.
He doesn't list as a wicketkeeper in this. His team, Quinton de Kock keeps wicket, but he's a wonderful wicketkeeper as well. But yeah, I mean, I had a chance of giving coaching him in England before he joined that England series where he batted brilliantly. Not because of me, because of my throwdowns, but he already had that talent. He had come and played a few games back there before joining the South Africa squad in England T20. But a wonderful striker of the ball, and one of the good thing which was noticed that he could play spin really well. He could sweep, he could play reverse sweep, and he can play straight down the ground as well. So there's someone, usually when we talk about South African, Australian or English players, that they don't play spin really well. But here's someone, who can actually play spin really well. Some maybe like, Wandalusa we South African player, we know he sweeps really well. But here's someone who can sweep really well and play down the ground really well as well.
Yeah, that's a big asset to have every time you're playing India in India. But a big asset to have once you're cracking the joy factor is time and this. I don't have either, so I'll just read the question for you, and then you can do the needful. On, of course, PPPDA will crack this because he's cracked so many joy factors. But the question of the day is: who was the first person to score 2 double centuries in List A or ODI cricket? AJ, rings any bells? I thought,
Not me.
yeah. PPPDA in your database?
2 List A. Database. Come on, PP. How can you let us down?
Yeah.
You know, to think we can't give answer here.
All right,
You
but
can if you have
answer,
one.
yeah. No, but he usually tracks it. Then he sends it on a WhatsApp group.
No, that's the best way to say you can't give answer here.
Yeah, correct.
Because you don't
but
have
you guys
any.
have to correct. Yeah, you guys have to give your answers. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live is where you send them in. We also have to give our answers. Score predictions. South Africa is batting first, gentlemen. PPPDA, how many are they getting?
180.
180. AJ, not those two numbers. AJ, please.
Same number, 189. If they have to win, they have to get that many scores. And supposedly it's a good track. It's a good track.
Yeah. All right. So 189, 180, I say 170. What are your guesses? Let us know using hashtag Cricbuzz Live. That's all the time we have right now on Cricbuzz Live. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, PP, for joining us. We'll, of course, see you at the end of 10 overs with Cricbuzz Combox. That's all on this edition of Cricbuzz Live. See you super soon.